so we're back on the bathroom. Stripped it all out now. I'll give you a quick buzz round of what's going on so far. But it's the floor we're looking at today. This floor is wonky, about halfway along, it drops off. And I mean it drops off like that much. So I've got to try and level this part of the floor, because we used to have a cupboard here and you'd open the drawers and they'd shut themselves. That's how bad it was, old houses. But anyway, let's have a quick look at what's going on. There was a cupboard there, that's gone. I've left the vent there because we're going to put a bath with a shower above it, but it's going to be fully enclosed and the vent's going to suck all the moisture out of there rather than let it come into the room. Sauna's going now. This was all tiled. This is a lime wall, so obviously a lot of it came off, but that's just like a render because we're sticking shower panels over there. Architrave's off. We've got like a custom architrave. I've got to make that, so that'll be another one probably at some point, another video where I show you how I make them out of one bit of timber. But yeah, this is the floor. To give you an idea of how bad this is, these are the wedges I've got to make, all different sizes and all different depths, but that's the worst bit. Nearly 2 inches of drop across there. So my plan is to make these wedges, and where the joists are, I'm going to take these floorboards off because a lot of them are too short. They don't go up to the wall. So I'm going to replace these and reposition some of them, neaten it all up a bit because it's a bit of a patchwork quilt. So the idea, take the floorboards off, put these wedges on top of the joists, and there's a diagonal line, you probably can't see a pencil line there, you can see it there, and I'll put some wedges across there on the actual joist, and then put the floorboards back on, and that should level my floor up across there. That's the plan. So I'll take you over to the workshop now and show you how I make these wedges. I've got 2 more to do, this one and that one. Now originally I thought I'd just use my track saw. There is a much easier way of cutting, especially these great big long wedges that I've got to do. I've seen people do this where they make a nice jig, and if you're doing lots of the same repetitive cut, brilliant. You put it in, cut it, put it in, cut it, carry on. They work really well. But these are 2x4s, not like 18mm ply or MDF, so they're fatter obviously, and they're all different. So one jig doesn't fit all, so each thing's got to be different lengths, different thickness of the wedge, if you know what I mean. So I've seen people where they have one with a groove. There's other bits where they clamp stuff together. So I've been inspired heavily by them, I suppose, and I've simplified it even further to make it so where we can just slap something on top of our piece and cut it. And it works really well. So it's a really good way of doing it. It's a lot easier than fighting with the track saw. If you've got a table saw, it's a lot easier than fighting with the track saw. This is our working piece. This is the bit we're going to cut the wedge out of. This stays on the bottom. What we need to know is our measurements, how long it is. So I've cut it down to length. It's 2 meters, 2 centimeters. We need to know the thickness of the wedge at the end, a midpoint, and at that end. At that end, we want it to taper down to nothing, more or less. It'd be about 1 mil. So I've got our 2 measurements here. We're going to set the depth of this, but also need to know the kerf of our blade, because we're going to be cutting the piece, the offcut will be the piece we want, because what we're going to be using is another bit of 2x4, but get the straightest one you can. Want a nice straight edge. And then all we do is we'll find our lines, and then see, the last one I did was something like 2.5 meters or something. And then up this end, I'll do exactly the same thing again. I'm just trying to get this to that. I don't want this too fat. I want it to, like I say, I want it to feather out. So we've got that end, this end. screw it down. Now it's as simple as, this is now our guide. We'll put this through the through the table saw, run it through like this, and it will cut our wedge. And it's as simple as that, really. You can get multiple cuts or pieces out of your workpiece. All you've got to be aware of is the thinner this gets, the more tendency this is going to have to roll. So to combat that, just use a scrap piece. And basically, when this is thin, you lay that on there, using the factory size, if you know what I mean. Lay that in there, and as you've got your thinner bit going through, you just run it across it, and it'll just stop it from going wonky. So I've set the fence, so it's a nice snug fit between there and the blade. And also, I've set the blade just above this piece here. That's the same size as what we're cutting. The reason I've done that is that so it barely touches our guide piece, because then we can reuse our guide piece. It hasn't got a great big corner cut off it. That's the wedge. I mean, it's the beast of a thing. What's that, 2 meters long, over 6 feet. So that's all the pieces cut. I'm going to lay them out, and that should give us a pretty good indication of whether we're heading in the right direction or if we've nailed it. I've got some other bits and pieces to do before I actually physically put them on, but basically what I'm going to do is floorboards up, either nail or screw them with some glue to the joists so they're a permanent fixture. But I'll lay these out, and then we'll see if we can get an idea of what it's going to look like. That's kind of how it's going to look. I tried to get these ends as feathered thin as I could. That's a nice one. It just helps the transition between that floorboard being sort of like that to kind of like that. But anyway, I'm going to carry it across to there. There's only 2 more to do, and I feel it'd be rude not to. And I'm having these old floorboards out anyway, and that one. So, but more importantly, you can see the height of that. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, this floor is shocking. You can see it tapers, or it drops over there. It drops that way, so no more self-closing drawers, hopefully. And it was the way it was built, because the wall's square. Everything along there is more or less kind of square, so it's not like it's dropped over time. This was kind of almost deliberate. Old houses, gotta love them. I glued the wedges down and then hit them with a couple of brad nails just to hold them in place, and then up the thick end I've put screws going right through into the joist that sit in the middle of where the floorboard's going to be, so I can still screw into this, but I'm still using up this end. I'm trying to drill all the way through this into put a pilot into the floor joist and use longer screws, sort of 80mm up this end. But I just thought I'd put some screws in, belt and braces really. But that's the floor going back down again. I did go all the way up that end. The last one didn't need any, so they're all level now. And it's a bit of a wonky floor. It sort of forms an arc, goes right across to about there. So from here on, it was sort of sloping down into this corner. Not anymore. So yeah, there we go. I'll try and put a pick at the end to see the almost finished floor. I can't finish this in detail here because I've got to build a threshold up, but I use oak anyway, so that's fairly straightforward. But yeah, hopefully this one's helped you out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.